Hey, everybody. Welcome back to episode 2 of Humans of Springford. Hopefully you enjoyed the first episode and you're enjoying this new format as we highlight the people behind the various businesses and those that are investing in the community of the Twin Boroughs and beyond into Limerick and Upper Providence Township. Today, my guest is Brad Sinrod. He's an entrepreneur and also one of the people behind the Main Street revitalization efforts here in Royersford. Brad, thanks for coming on the show today. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, no problem. So just wanted to give an opportunity for you to let people know who you are, your background, and maybe share some of the details of what's been happening on Main Street.
Sure. Well, I just wanted to thank you for what you've been doing. We've all been watching your show as it's developed and gives everyone a good sense of some of the things that are going on in town. So I think it's important to share that, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So just to give a little of my background, I was born in New York City and lived there until I was 18. And New York City's pretty nice and fancy and stuff now, but it was not quite that way when I was growing up in Brooklyn.
Oh, wow.
In the 70s and 80s. So I was pretty happy to get out of there once I went away to college. Didn't really want to look back on that, and ended up chasing a girl, and ended up settling down in Pennsylvania after some twists and turns. And I live 20 minutes away from Royersford now. Ended up going to Penn State for graduate school, got my MBA there, and since I think we talked about this, but since 1995 or 96, I've been involved in various entrepreneurial businesses. I was a .com kid in the 90s, started an internet company, did that whole thing, and sold that and got into real estate. So since 2002, I've always had a big real estate component to whatever I've done. So I do have a medical equipment business in Birdsboro. We have stuff manufactured for us, orthopedic braces, and which we distribute. We're open now. It's a healthcare company. So everyone's working from home, but right. We're open and busy and providing prescription level bracing, knees, backs, cervical, extremities, either people who have chronic conditions or trying to put off surgery by using a knee brace to right. try and delay having a knee replacement for a few years, and also people who are post-operative who have had a spinal fusion or something like that and need some stability while they heal. And that business has been great. We're in about half the country. We're in,
oh, wow.
All up and down the East Coast, and then some other states across the country. So it's been challenging. That we have technicians who are going into practices where everyone's wearing masks, right. and maybe some of the patients have been exposed to the virus, and we're doing the best that we can to keep our employees safe, to help patients who, there are other ailments besides COVID right now. And so there are people who have other problems. If you have a bad ankle sprain and you're home and you can't go to the doctor and you don't want to have surgery,
right.
we're still servicing a lot of those patients. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of these elective, quote unquote elective things have been postponed completely. So,
yes.
It's funny. It's a very subjective term, whether the person that's going through the injury thinks it's elective or not. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, well, what do they call it? Joy of life, or what's the term? I forget.
Activities of daily.
Yeah, daily life and quality of life. That's the word term I was looking for. I guess I could put off this ankle surgery, but I also will be sitting on the couch for a month and a half
if you
without
can't
being
get
able
up
to
and
get
down the
around.
stairs,
Right.
you can't function. So,
Right. Exactly.
and
Yeah. So I'd imagine.
we have a great team, managers, and there's a lot of change always in healthcare, but try and stay up with that. So that sort of leads me to how I got involved with Royersford.
Right.
I have, like I said, for 20 years or so, I've been investing in real estate and started very small. But I've always been attracted to small towns. Maybe it's because I grew up in New York City. I
Right.
really like that small town charm, and that's what I was missing growing up. And so as my medical business has grown, well, let me back up for a second.
That's
So
fine.
I've invested in a lot of towns that have had main streets that maybe were great and had fallen into disrepair. And then as people started wanting to be able to walk to dinner and walk to the services that they need, a lot of these people have looked at these very pretty downtown Main Street areas as an opportunity. And I've always looked at it that way too. So we did some stuff in Downingtown, and 20 years ago, a lot of these towns we got into sort of before they bounced back. So Downingtown, we bought some buildings in Ardmore, which is now they're building high rises in Ardmore. But
That's
back,
crazy.
we bought stuff that was empty, old, needed to be refreshed. And some other towns like that. Some stuff down in University City, some other college campuses.
Right.
And so as my business was growing in Birdsboro, and it's not fancy space that we're in, but we were busting out at the seams.
Right.
We started to look for a town where we could set up shop. And I spent years driving up and down 422 and looking at all these exits along the way between where I live in Villanova and where my office is in Birdsboro. And I was like, let me get off at some of these exits and drive around and see if I can find a place that's a little more centrally located and has some potential. So I drove through Royersford a bunch of times, and it really immediately struck a chord with me. As I looked around, and these are, as a sort of real estate person, these are the things that sort of maybe jump out at me.
Right.
Very few for sale signs. So that means, everyone's staying put, stuff's selling quickly. Everyone's grass was cut. All of the fences were mended. The front yards were all well groomed and taken care of. And I was like, this is a place where people really like to live here.
Right.
And the location's unbelievable, right off of 422. So literally like 3 or 4 years ago, I went on the borough webpage and sent an email that said something like, I'm looking for a place to relocate my business. I'm a real estate investor. Every town has someone that knows what's going on. Can you put me in touch with that person?
Yeah.
So 10 minutes later, Anil, the borough council president, emails me or calls me and says, we got a lot of empty buildings. Come on down. I'll show you around. So he took me on a tour and we looked at, and you got to remember, and all the local people remember, 4 or 5 years ago, with a few exceptions, Main Street was pretty empty.
Yeah. You probably had Anna Marie's, Chrisman Jewelers, and not much else. Main Street Cafe, baby.
Yeah. And there are lots of reasons why main streets in Pennsylvania and other places have emptied out. You had all the big box, if you look at sort of the last 40 years, right? So all the big box stores opened up, sucked all the mom and pop grocery stores and shoe stores and appliance stores, and that all disappeared.
Right.
And then you have these footprints of stores that are 1,000 square feet, 1,500 square feet. It's very difficult to have 1 or 2 or 3 employees with that few square feet and have an efficient business. Mm-hmm. If you go to Best Buy, there's 6 people there in a 30,000 square foot store. It's just much more, the ratio of selling space to the number of people you have to have working the register, it all changed.
Yeah.
And with Amazon and Netflix and all this stuff,
right.
All these spaces just got emptied out. But having been involved with other small towns, there are things that replace them, and you just have to make that shift of, you're not going to be selling computers or shoes or things like that.
Right.
But you are going to be providing unique experiences and services that people need, right? You can't, I go to Anne Marie's all the time, and she's awesome. You can't get that delivered, you can't get that delivered. I know she delivers, but if you want to have that kind of experience and that kind of food and have it be hot and fresh, you have to go there. You can't replace that.
Right.
Or, Soul Joel's, that's a live experience. You got to do that in person. So these things start to fill back in if you can be a little proactive about it. So Anil took me on a tour and showed me all the buildings that were empty, there were a lot. So we looked at 5 or 6 of them, and we ended up buying initially the old Lebo furniture building from Roger and his family.
Yeah.
And Roger's an awesome guy, pillar of the community. That business was there for a very long time. And it just, the market changed, and they decided to close up. And it was empty for 7 years.
Wow.
So we were able to purchase that, and we had to do a fair amount of reconfiguring to make it something that would work in the modern economy.
Right.
So there's some apartments upstairs. We've renovated all of them. There was one furniture store, and now there's 5 different commercial spaces. And initially, no one was interested because it was an empty street with empty buildings.
I would imagine it's hard to get that first person. Like
getting the first one's hard. Getting the last one in, very easy.
Yeah, right. Because they're benefiting from everybody else's presence at that point, right?
Yeah. So, so the first mover on that was Senator Muth, Katie Muth. Nice. She's local and needed a local office and really wanted to be on Main Street, Royersford. And it was an empty building, and they came through, and she said, I want to be here. I want to be right in the middle of town. So, working with her and the folks in Harrisburg and her staff, we were able to build out that office. I hope everyone's been in there at some point. It's a beautiful space. Her staff is awesome. They're very community oriented. They provide tremendous services to all the people in town. If anyone has something that they need help with, that would be a place I would stop in. Highly recommend that. And they were the first mover, and that started the whole transformation of the street, as of this wave of transformations. And then after that, Liz from Corfit, she was up the road in an industrial building, and she said the same thing. I want to be in town. And around that time, Sweet Aloha's opening up, and they know each other. And Brian and Janine, everyone knew they were going to make things work. Right. So Liz was the next one to sort of say, I'm going to do this. It's the middle of town. I want to be there. We'll figure it out. So she moved in, and they've been doing great. And I don't know if I know if they have a huge following. They do these very intense exercise programs. I've gone a few times. I end up embarrassing myself, and it's not all women, but it's a lot of women, and they're all they can lift more than me. They can do more exercise than me. It's like the most embarrassing thing, and they're all sort of. I try.
You're not a small guy. You're tall. You probably have a head of height on all of them, and you're.
There's some very strong, fit, athletic people there.
I would have a hard time being there myself.
and
Everybody who's seen the show knows my physique. So,
but Liz helped me a lot with getting through some injuries that I've had, and I've taken private training and stretching stuff with her. It's been really great. And their business is going pretty well right now during the quarantine. They're not allowed to open, but they have a Facebook page for members. I think their membership has actually gone up.
Wow.
And people are working out at home. And I have a membership, and my daughter and I, there's pictures there of me and my daughter doing yoga at home, watching the videos, and no one wants to see that, but you can if you want to. But they've been going doing very well, and it's a great business for Main Street, because here you have these folks who join a private gym, so they're coming into town. There's still plenty of parking, despite like a few knuckleheads on Facebook who somehow think that there aren't. There's hundreds of empty spots every day, even before the Corona thing.
Right.
So the Corfit members, like Senator Moose staff, they're driving into town, they're parking, they're shopping, they're having coffee and breakfast and lunch, and it's been great. There's a lot of people walking around. I know you've always asked me what else is going on in that building.
Right.
I'm not quite ready to say yet.
That's fine.
But we do have signed leases for every single space in the
That's awesome.
building, and all things that will continue. Assuming COVID ends at some point.
Right.
they're all medical and professional and services that are in demand and are will do well if there's a recession or slowdown or social distancing. That building will be full and up and running, fully on its way.
That's awesome.
And just on the parking thing, there's I believe 110 or 20 parking spots back behind that section of the 300 block of Main Street.
Yeah.
It's full. I don't think it's ever full, but Saturday brunch would be sort of the peak time when everyone's at the gym and everyone's at brunch and blah, blah, blah. There's still plenty of parking there. And the borough has been very proactive in creating more parking. They've identified other lots and spots and ways to restripe things. There's no parking problem downtown. People should come down once you can.
Once they're allowed. I know. I'm itching, man. I'm definitely itching to get back out and do things. We've done some takeout from the various Royersford Spring City businesses so far, just to try to keep the support going. And I really believe that once these things start to loosen up, people are going to be in droves. Just to have that freedom again, it's going to feel good. Yeah.
So then the next step for us was we ended up buying it's like 7 or 8 buildings on the corner of 4th and Main. So it the main building being the one on the corner of 4th and Main, which has the downtown signs in the window now. It used to be a cash for gold junk store, would probably be the best description. Right. And before that, it was an auction house. And sometime before that, it was the town hall. And it's been all kinds of things in between. There was a clock tower on top at one point. And I believe it either fell down or had a fire, or not quite sure. But
they had to take it down. I remember them mentioning that in the Historical Society. They talked about it a little bit.
And I know people always say, wow, it'd be great to have a clock tower there. Well, I personally, I don't even wear a watch anymore because my phone has the time.
Right.
But I do architecturally love the idea of a clock tower. And if someone would like to pay for it, I think you could either buy every single person in town an Apple Watch, and they could have tell time, or probably for the same cost, we could build a clock tower that probably no one would look at.
Right.
But it would look nice. So if someone wants to do a GoFundMe, I will provide the platform for them to build
There you go.
or on top
It's
of.
I think it's a piece of nostalgia that people like to see
Yeah,
things like that, which I think is it's awesome to see the work and that the the refacing that's been done on a lot of the buildings has just really been extraordinary to see, literally see the buildings come back to life in front of your eyes. It's pretty cool to see that, especially with that building, the Borough Hall, with the seeing that there's going to be a an outward facing business there anchoring that corner,
yeah,
uh, as opposed to just something that seems to be closed at all times, which is what it seemed like before. So whenever it does happen, it's going to be exciting.
yeah. I am in constant touch with the folks who operate the restaurant. They plan on being open as soon as it makes sense to be open,
Right.
and no slowing down in preparation,
Yeah.
getting ready for that. It's going to be great. I mean, there's 5,000 people in the borough. Almost everyone, well, everyone really, is in walking distance if they're able to walk 10 blocks.
Right.
There's that new parking lot opening up across the street. I think there are some other places in town to go out. I go to the Big Easy all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take anything away from the other places, but this is like the main corner in town, and it's going to be hopping.
Yeah, I think it will actually help too, because it'll, rather than take away, because I think it's going to make people think to go to Main Street for nightlife and meals, and then there, if there's a line or a wait, then it opens up the opportunities for everyone around,
Yeah,
as opposed to it just being like, if there's one night spot in the town, people aren't necessarily thinking of going there, so if there's like maybe one or two or three, then it encourages people to see it that way and to say, let's go to Royersford for dinner or whatever,
right.
So I'm excited for that very
Yeah.
reason, like you said.
And the other restaurateurs in town, that they know they'll just have to up their game and make their places more interesting, and they welcome more attention on the food scene.
Yeah, definitely.
It's sort of the way everyone's been approaching it.
Yeah, I had no idea that there were that many buildings on that corner. Like, I see obviously the main structure that was once Borough Hall,
Mhm.
but so they're all considered, like, the extension up Fourth Avenue and everything. That's all considered separate buildings that you have there, and the apartments and stuff. Or what is the layout like? There's just several
Well,
buildings on that plot. Or?
uh, that building has 4 different street addresses.
Oh wow, okay.
You have 2 for the commercial, 2 for the residential, different ways in and out.
Right.
And then there's some townhomes behind that most people probably don't even know are there.
Oh wow.
And then some going up the street. It's the whole corner. It's a neat property.
Yeah, for sure. I know we walk past it a lot, especially now, maintaining so safe social distancing and stuff. But I've walked this town more in the last 5 weeks than I had the 3 years previous living here. It's kind of been an interesting renaissance, I guess, for me. Walking, they say, is good. So my wife and I and my kids, we've been hitting every single street in Royersford at some point during this, just to encourage that outdoor exercise within a safe distance is important. But
Yeah, that's good.
yeah, the business. I mean, like I was saying, that the building is so cool. Like, we walk past it, and there's this one door that my wife and I always like. It's got like a padlock on it, but it's like such an old fashioned
It's a
looking door.
brownstone.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, that's just like, I'm like in Charles Dickens time or something. That's what it feels like when you walk past it. It's like
There is a red door on the brownstone, which is one up from the corner, which is what you're talking about. It goes into the basement. Let's keep it a mystery as to what's on the other side.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a very cool door. It's a pretty neat spot.
Yeah, definitely. That's how I feel. There's that one building next to I forget which it is, White's Barbershop or Adam Breeze, but the little Merchant Taylor building.
Uh-huh.
It's this tiny little thing, and I was like, I don't know what could be there, but I think if somebody could keep that building that small and make it like a hot dog stand, or I don't know, something interesting just to kind of preserve the history there. That's another building on the main street that you're like, what is this? It's like, it's the size of like a room, but it's a building. It's funny.
It's an awesome building.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I can't talk about Royersford real estate without a shout out to my buddy Tosh,
right,
who has So I bought these buildings that were mostly vacant, um, and so did he. And he is so good at the historic um, renovation of historic buildings.
Hmm.
So you have to update them a little bit just to bring them up to code, right? So like
Right.
you have to put in windows that are safety glass and doorways that are ADA compliant. So there's some things you can't keep them exactly the way that they were.
Right.
But he is so good at bringing the historic elements out. If you look up at the cornice, like the top row of all of his buildings, they're all painted in multiple colors, and
Right.
you know, um, the attention to detail has forced me to raise my game, and he, we go back and forth as to who can um, take an old building and make it pop the most. He's probably the best, but I'm trying.
That's funny. It's true though, but it's like what you were talking about with the restaurants and everything. It's like to competition is really good, and to be able to talk about competition in Royersford is exciting because up till now, like you had said, like getting that first lease signed is the hardest because it's like, well, there's nothing else here. Why am I going to come here and be the cornerstone or the anchor? I'd rather see somebody else take that first leap and then I'll jump on board, kind of a thing. But when we can openly talk about there's other people doing the same thing I'm doing, and it's causing us to improve our own work because we want to, playful competition, obviously.
Right.
But then also the financial aspect of competition it's a good problem to have, and hopefully between Tasha's efforts, your efforts, and the various other people that are investing in the community, we're going to see that start to really explode, and the people who are going to benefit are the residents, because you're going to see um, property values going up. You're going to see people making Royersford a destination again, like it once was, and that's one of the things that's really exciting, and Spring City for that matter as well. I don't want to forget about the other borough, but obviously your main efforts are within Royersford, so um, that's really exciting to hear you talk about those things, and especially that corner building, which has got so much history in it. To see it start to be restored back to its original glory is exciting as well.
And so maybe we started with the outside, or that was the part that was visible.
Yeah.
We uh, power washed, or that's not really the right term, but we
Yeah.
used a soap material to clean the bricks.
Right.
And there was all kinds of, they were brown and now they're brick color again.
Yeah.
Um, we replaced dozens of windows, and some of those windows are 10 feet tall, so they're
Yeah. It's
custom
crazy.
3-section windows. We painted all the trim. We had an 80-foot lift there to get the sort of upper levels. We replaced all of the downspouts and things because there was some water control issues, that water running down the outside instead of proper channels.
Yeah.
But the thing that's really interesting, and a lot of people don't know this, inside that building, if you look at how tall some of those stories are, we have apartments inside that have 14, 16-foot ceilings.
Wow.
And these 10-foot windows. And I think, well, this is accurate to say every single apartment in there is different.
Yeah.
A lot of them have exposed brick. A lot of them have exposed beams. Some of them have steel beams. There's some steel I-beams in that building that are like factory size.
Wow.
And we've tried everywhere we can to keep as much of that interesting character in as many of the apartments as we can. And they're all different.
Yeah.
And we like that. Every single apartment's different.
Yeah. It's a unique experience.
And they all have something interesting, and some exposed brick or beams or original hardwood or something. And we try and play up that sort of quirky, historic, but modernly functioning stuff.
Yeah.
Fun.
And
It's very creative.
it's cool too, because it's going back to what you had said about, you know, Main Street businesses kind of having to change their model. Essentially is that they have to the ones that survive are the ones that provide that unique experience. So the fact that each individual apartment is unique kind of mirrors what you were talking about with the various businesses and things.
Right.
Anna Marie's and Soul Joel's, like it's a unique experience. That's why you go. The atmosphere, the ambiance for those places, and then the apartments kind of echo that, because like not one is the same, and you can make your pick based on what appeals to you if you're in the market to rent. If you find
Yeah.
it, oh, I really always wanted exposed brick. Well, there you go.
Yeah. And you can't get that in a new, they're building all these apartments in King of Prussia and places like that.
Right.
They're not that interesting.
No, it's
And they're
cookie
so much
cutter.
more expensive. And here we have these, 100-year-old buildings that have really neat stuff, but also have, double pane, windows, and are, very solidly built, and
Yeah.
granite countertops and stainless appliances, and
Yeah, the modern amenities, but with the traditional
exactly.
atmosphere. It's really cool, and it's
And a cool town with
yeah,
lots of neat people. I mean,
yeah. I've seen.
and that's one of the other things, and you've highlighted a lot of these folks, but there are, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 people in Royersford who work constantly on a volunteer basis to make this town great. And I'm always amazed by them. Between, the folks on Borough Council and Jenna and Anna Marie and some of the business owners in town, um, and the real estate, the folks who are doing a nice job with fixing up the real estate, and you and um, uh, Amy at the Historical Society, they're the amount of work and effort that they're putting in is the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why Royersford is propelling itself forward faster than some of the other towns nearby.
Yeah.
It's the people who are doing it selflessly.
Yeah, it's incredible to see. They always say 20% of the people do 80% of the work, but I mean, the amount of you look at the work that's been done, and then you can trace it back to just that, that group of 10 or however many. It's unbelievable, just in such a short amount of time. Even since I moved here in May of 2017, and just seeing, and I started Discover Springford in September of 2017. So I jumped right in with both feet as soon as I got here. But everyone that I've met, the people you've mentioned, it's the same. It's like I came here and I said, I want to be a part of this. Like there is no real sitting on the bench kind of an attitude with these folks. It's I'm going to get in, and I'm going to get my hands dirty, and I'm going to build the community that I want to raise my family in, and I want to be proud to say I'm from, and that kind of thing. And that effort is, we're going to see the lasting legacy of that for years to come, because people are putting in the effort, that they're making it their own. It's not, and that's the thing that I wanted to do with Discover Springford, which was, I don't want to be a transplant. I moved here because taxes were cheap and the schools were good. You know what I mean? Like I want it to be, I'm from Royersford. That's my hometown. I wanted to become a local as quickly as possible, and hopefully through these efforts and the support of those like yourself and Anil and some of those initial folks, Anna Marie. I look back at that list of the first 7 or 8 businesses that agreed for some strange man to come and film them and sit down and have an interview with them when I had nothing to show for it. You know what I mean? Now I have 59 episodes that I can say, hey, do you want to be on Discover Springford? Here's the 59 episode archive. They said yes before even knowing who I was, and without me being able to show any example of my work. So I'm so enamored and in love with the people of this town because of that very reason, that they were willing to embrace an outsider and make him one of their own. And I feel like, with yourself as well, just kind of jumping in with both feet. It's an exciting time. And, outside of what's going on right now, obviously, which we'll get past, and it'll be a blip on our timeline ultimately. But yeah, sorry, I started pontificating there a little bit, but I get excited talking about it because it's something I'm passionate about.
Yeah. And I left a lot of people off that list, and I'm thinking of all the other people
No, that's all right.
who impressed me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, should have mentioned all these other people. But
it wasn't an intentional slight. I'm sure people understand.
But yeah, it is a lot of those people are the reason why I got excited about the town, and I'm we'll see what happens over the next 18 months, but I would definitely make more investments in Royersford, and all the local realtors, and I hope all the local property owners know that I'm interested and I'm available. And you know, the my criteria for this sort of renovation stuff that I like is, you know, it's got to be big enough to make a difference.
Yeah.
And it's got to be interesting enough that with some effort, it can be beautiful again.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not, you know, a cinder block building in the middle of town, although I guess I do have one of those.
Yeah.
is not as interesting as a large historic building that, you know, can be repurposed, repositioned. And I had a couple things I was working on, and I'm hoping that they happen. Although everything's sort of on hold right now to figure out what to be. But I would, you know, we're pretty far into our thing here, and I'm not sure who's still watching. But if anyone is interested, you know, I'm always looking to get involved with projects. My email address is my first initial and my last name at Gmail. It's bsinrod@gmail. I've talked to probably every building owner and business owner in town at one point or another. You know, I've helped some, you know, in ways that, you know, help them, didn't really do anything for me. Just, you know, hey, let me see if I can give you some tips on how to, you know, fix your own building up or build your business. You know, I have been in business for 30 years. And if there's a way I can get involved, great. Otherwise, I'm just happy to help people sort of figure stuff out on their own. You know, and if there is another big transformative real estate project in downtown Royersford that I could do, I would jump all over that.
That's great. Yeah, I'm glad you said that too. And just to piggyback on that, I know we've been mentioning the apartments, and you know, obviously we have the retail space, we have the commercial space, but then also the residential aspect of it. Hopefully, I will remember to add some of the photos of the of the in post production, as it were. But some of the unique spaces that are available, and you know, or may come available in the future. You know, it's your chance to kind of be a part of something unique in Royersford. If those that are renters are looking for space, you know, this isn't just like a studio apartment that you can throw a couple bucks at. You know, this is a unique experience and a way to invest in the community as well, and to live in a really posh, very highly highly renovated, highly modern, but also, like we had said, with those traditional aspects of the history of the town. So to definitely encourage you guys to take a look at what they have available in some of the rental spaces on Main Street, knowing what you're paying for is done with a lot of love, but also with a lot of looking towards the future at what Royersford can become.
Yeah.
So that's my plug for you there.
Thanks.
No problem.
And you know, and I won't throw anyone else under the bus, but me and some of the other real estate folks in town, you know, we talk about this stuff a lot. I mean, we want housing to be, you know, nice and, you know, obviously safe first, and then nice, and you know, exceed expectations in terms of character and amenities. But we want it to be affordable. And affordable is a weird thing when you're situated in Royersford, because you have some areas that are much less expensive and much more run down, not that far away. I won't throw any other, you know, Pottstown under the bus or whatever. And then 5 miles in the other direction, you have these really fancy luxury things and really high paying jobs. And so, you know, we want to be able to provide a mix of options,
right? So
that you know, hardworking folks who need something that's affordable can live in town, and then also, you know, the executive that works at Merck or, you know, one of these big businesses who wants to be in town with everyone else, they have options too.
Right.
And I think that, you know, there's always some when I post a when we really take the time and make a really nice apartment and we do everything right, and it's beautiful and could compete with anything anywhere.
Right.
Half the people who comment on it say, I can't believe how expensive that is. This is Royersford, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then the other half the people are sitting in their office, in Collegeville in some, high-tech company, and they're thinking, I can't believe how affordable this is.
Right.
So it's a very, complicated dynamic.
Right.
Royersford's going to be much less expensive than King of Prussia, slightly less expensive than Phoenixville, and more expensive than Pottstown. And so you have to kind of find that right balance of people. And it's, the best tenants for us are the ones that pull up and walk around and go to Sweet Aloha and show up with their Brewed Awakening coffee and, say, I was walking on the riverfront and this is the town I want to be in. This is great. And those people might have all kinds of different jobs and income levels and things like that, but they're community oriented and they see the charm and the old buildings, and that's what we have going on. It's really,
that's awesome.
Really great.
Yeah. And do you currently have any? I mean, this will I'll put this up in a day, a couple days after we actually do it, but I'm sure things won't disappear that fast with where we are right now. But are there current rentals available? If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way they can do that?
I would say, our apartments rent very, very quickly.
Okay.
But there's always 2 or 3 turnovers per month, just because, someone's lived there for a long time and they're moving on for whatever reason.
Right.
But they go pretty quickly. Like today, right now, I have 1 apartment available.
Okay.
And a couple more that are coming up. We position ourselves as being, among the higher end stuff in town. So if someone is looking for that and they know what they want and they know when they're looking to move, every month there's 2 or 3 options.
Okay.
And the other landlords in town are great, most of them, and we share stuff back and forth. So if someone did reach out to me, I know, like on Facebook, we have Main Street Royersford is our page. We've, I don't know, under 1,000, but close to 1,000 maybe followers. We always post all of our new stuff there. And if someone contacts me and says, I'm looking for blah, 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 and I want to move on this date and I don't have something, I'll just send it to, give them names and numbers of other people in town. We compete fiercely with each other. Yeah. But at the same time, we're very happy to help each other and help people find something that works for them.
Yeah, that's great, because it's, like you had said, there's different niches, like demographics and things, like everybody has a different need. So, filling the need, even if it's not what you're offering that is best fit for them, then that's cool that you guys are willing to, pass them on or refer them, because that's helpful for a lot of people. So that's great.
One more plug for the restaurant.
Sure.
So this downtown restaurant that's coming in, I know that people, so some little tidbits of information have come out over time. Yeah. But they're going to have a full liquor license. They're going to have dozens of craft beers on tap. Creative and very accessible menu. I know that there's some vegetarian options and some gluten-free options, but there's, burgers and normal food and just fun stuff to eat. Yeah. It's going to be great. And the space is really neat. Yeah. I've seen some of the renderings and stuff, which just looks so cool. There are some renderings, but we have this entire wall that's the old historic stone from the foundation that we've exposed. Wow. Very high ceilings. The floors are really neat. It's going to be really awesome. That's great. And the location's great. I mean, it's it's right in the middle of town. Yeah. I can walk there, so I'm excited. Home. Yeah. I can walk there, which is exciting, because it's like I can walk off some of the calories that I'll be consuming. Yeah.
That's so
Yeah,
awesome.
that's great. And if you live upstairs,
Oh, even better.
and we're putting in lots of sound and noise insulation in between the
Yeah.
floors, because I said to the people that run the restaurant, I was like, have fun, make noise, play loud music. We will envelop you in sound insulation. Let's have a lot of fun down there, and you know keep everyone happy.
That's good.
Um, yeah, so that'll really be great. And I think when will that open? I don't know, but I
Yeah.
would assume it's this calendar year.
Yeah.
Sort of um, will speed up or slow down depending upon how the social distancing and restrictions on restaurants change. I don't think it makes sense for them to open up as a takeout only place
Yeah.
with the liquor license and things. But we'll see how it goes.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm certainly praying and hoping for a quicker turnaround than a lot of people are predicting, but also with a very loose grip on being very practical about it at the same time. Trying to strike that balance of being hopeful but also realistic at the same time. So,
Yeah,
uh, but we're all kind of in the same boat, and I know a lot of people are struggling. So hopefully, this information is exciting because it's giving you guys something to look forward to. Um, Out at the as we continue to see the light at the end of the tunnel. As of right now, it seems that new cases are on the downward slope, which is good, and hopefully it'll continue that trend. And the warm weather will knock some of it out, and we'll be celebrating summer and fall almost normally. That'd be fun.
yeah. I hope it's just a temporary setback, and temporary might mean that it could be months, or it
Yeah,
could be quite a while. But I know that uh, the trajectory that our little borough is on is phenomenal, and everyone was feeling that completely. And I think that I've said, and Tosh and some of the other folks, this is not a short-term commitment for all of us. I mean, you
right.
look at the people who've been buying real estate and what our track records are, and the business owners, you know, like in Anna Marie or whomever, we will all be standing there and celebrating and doing new and interesting things, whether it's 2 months from now, 6 months from now, 5 years from now. It's a long-term project for all of us.
Yeah,
And when you look at, like, I didn't mention the stuff that Rick's doing down on the
yeah, right.
waterfront. And I've met with some folks in Spring City, and I think they're still trying to figure out what their next several moves are.
Yeah,
But I think that over the next 5 years, the transformation will just continue, and it's really exciting.
yeah,
I mean, if
definitely.
I was a young person looking for a town to set up shop in and make a long-term commitment to, this is a good one.
Yeah, I agree. That's what we thought when we saw it, and that was 3 years
Yeah,
ago at this point. So it's only going up from here, which is
and
exciting.
the
So
property values will continue to follow. I mean, I know that I still, buying a house is a big commitment, and I know that you know putting together a down payment and taking on a mortgage and all that stuff, no matter what the price of the home is usually the biggest commitment that someone makes.
yeah,
Um, but I think that if there's um, it is a place, I believe, that's undervalued relative to what it is already and what it will be. And I think that it's, I don't know what's happening the last couple months,
yeah,
but houses would come on the market and they would sell instantly.
yeah,
Demand far outpacing supply, and that's unbelievable.
yeah, for
Doesn't
sure.
happen. Doesn't happen in a lot of places.
No, it does not. So that's an exciting thing, and hopefully anybody who's listening or watching that you're feeling the excitement too, even in spite of what we're currently facing. That's the purpose of this show and why we decided to try something different since we had to end our official season a little bit early. But hopefully by continuing to produce this content for all of you listeners and watchers and supporters of Discover Springford, um, that it's only going to further excite you about once we clear out of this this little downturn that we're in. We're definitely on the long-term trajectory up. So that's exciting. So Brad, thank you so much for sharing all of this. I'm excited, as I knew I would be, because I just get excited talking about Royersford and Springford as a whole. If anybody, just to reiterate, anybody wants to get in touch with you, the best ways are through the Main Street Royersford Facebook page, and then your email, which is bsinrod@gmail.com.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk to anyone about anything, really. If it's, anyone that's willing to buy me a cup of coffee at Brewed Awakening, I'll sit down and brainstorm with them. And if I can offer any advice or help that is worth the cup of coffee, it'll be worth it.
That's good.
No promises, but
no, that's fine.
Try.
Well,
it's
Brad,
cheaper than taking Warren Buffett out for lunch.
Yeah, that's right.
And much less valuable too.
It's all right. It's all what's the word? It's subjective based on, the area and what you're looking for. So. But thank you. This has been awesome. And,
thanks, Jeff. Stay safe.
Thank you. You too. Yeah, your family as well, and with your employees and everything. We'll be thinking of them as they are still out and about, interacting with those in the health industry, and just praying that everybody stays safe out there. So thank you so much. I will be in touch with you in the future. And thank you all for watching or listening to Humans of Springford, this feature that we're doing as a continuation of our third season of Discover Springford. Until next time, start to do your own research online, since you can't get out there yourself, and discover what makes the Springford area a great place to live, work, eat, and explore.